Hi, John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Welcome to this Black Belt Leadership Master Your Life podcast. I want to talk to you about slaying your Goliath. Now, the ancient Hebrew texts tell the story of a young boy named David. And for those of you that are familiar with the story, bear with me while I share it for those that may not know the story of David. David was a young shepherd boy, likely in his teens, who was caring for the sheep of his family. He was asked by his family to go take food to his brothers who were serving in the army of Israel under King Saul. Now, as David made the journey and approached the camp with food from home, he overheard the bellowing challenge of the champion of the Philistine army, a soldier by the name of Goliath. Now, Goliath was seeking one-on-one combat, mano a mano, man to man, to settle a stalemate. Both armies had gathered one on one hill, one on another, and they began to hurl insults back and forth, but they didn't want to engage in battle, army to army. Now, in this era of history, often one army would choose a champion and the other army would choose a champion, and they would gather together and meet, and they would fight in combat to the death. And as a result of that, the winner had the opportunity to seek the servitude of the losing army. So this was a really big deal for Goliath to stand forth and call out for a soldier from the Israeli army to battle him. Now, the challenge for the Israeli army is Goliath was not only a battle-hardened soldier, he was enormous in size. Think Arnold Schwarzenegger coupled with Shaquille O'Neal. This was a giant of a man that was known for his ability to fight. Now, if we go to the ancient Hebrew text in the book of Samuel, the book of Samuel records that David, again, a reminder, a teenager, was offended by the vile, slanderous comments that Goliath was making, not only against the children of Israel, but against the God that David served. So David, in his anger, went to the king and sought permission to battle this giant. Now, think about the stakes of this. The combatant who lost and ultimately died ended up subjecting the entire army that he represented to the servitude of the winning combatant's king. So not only would this be a life or death struggle for David, it would truly be a life or death struggle for the two superpowers represented, because the losing superpower in this battle, mano a mano, would have to serve the other king and essentially become their slaves. These two kingdoms, Israel and Philistia, had been at war with each other for decades. And now this combat was going to be settled by two individuals, a giant of a man who was a hardened veteran soldier with many, many conflicts and many, many wins under his belt, facing a small, insignificant shepherd boy, a teenager, armed with nothing but a sling. Now, David had tried on the king's armor because the king insisted that if he was going to go to battle, he needed to go to battle dressed as a soldier. But David had never fought with armor and it didn't fit. And because he wasn't comfortable with it, he said no. So going in his simple shepherd's attire, David walked into the valley to face off with Goliath. David carried with him nothing but a sling and 5 smooth stones that he had picked up in a brook. Now, David was facing off against an armored giant with a spear, with a shield, with a sword, and likely other weapons at his disposal, kept by his side by his own armor bearer. Now, they initially exchanged words, and then they began to engage in battle. David, using his sling, struck the giant in the head with a rock, and as he stunned and likely killed this soldier with this sling and stone, proceeded forward, and as Goliath lay prostrate on the ground, David took Goliath's own sword and beheaded him. Now, so excited was the Israeli army by this victory that they surged into the valley and they engaged the Philistine army, chasing them, soundly defeating them, and pushing them back into their own country, ending the conflict for a season. Now, the act of facing down this giant did something incredible for David. It put him on a course where he would ultimately become the king of Israel. And during his leadership as the king of Israel, David united the kingdom and actually ushered in an unparalleled season of success and prosperity that Israel up to this point had not seen in hundreds of years. Now, in life, you and I all face moments when circumstances around us appear beyond our control. We all face those mission critical moments when it seems like all the cards are stacked against us. There's pressure on every side, and you and I are not even sure that we can accomplish the task that we're facing. But it's in these very moments, these trying, stressful, mission critical moments, that you and I must face our own Goliath. So when life seems most difficult, the challenge that we're facing seems too great, the obstacle before us looks like an obstacle we will never conquer and overcome. And as we look around, those around us and even those closest to us are telling us this can't be done. We need to just quit and stop trying. We're facing the impossible. Now, that's when, like David, you and I have to go and look within ourselves and discover who we truly are. It's in those moments we have the opportunity to look within, discover, develop, and deploy our own unique black belt leader to face that impossible situation. To believe in your heart of hearts that nothing to you is impossible. It's only an obstacle that's in the way that can and will be moved and overcome when you take decisive action. Now, history tells us that David looked within and recalled his past successes. As David sought permission from King Saul, the ancient Hebrew texts tell us, David recounted to him the time a bear came in and attempted to take a lamb from the flock of sheep that he was guarding, and how he killed that bear with his slingshot, and he returned that lamb back to the fold. He went on to recount another time when a lion came in and snatched a sheep from the flock, and how he relentlessly pursued, overtook, and killed that beast as well. I love David's comments to the king. To me, it was priceless. As I killed the bear and as I killed the lion, I will do the same to this Philistine soldier. David was confident, and he was speaking the desired outcome of what he wanted to see happen when he faced his giant. So what did he do? David recounted the wins that he had had early in his life, and he used those wins to elevate his belief in himself and in his ability to overcome. So David simply saw Goliath as another opportunity to demonstrate what he had successfully done time and time again. Now, the same is true for you and I. And as you and I lead ourselves and we lead others, you and I are going to experience wins along the way. And you and I have already experienced wins, some big, some not so big, and some quite small, but they're wins nonetheless. Now, each and every one of these wins should empower and inspire you as it inspires me to see the next challenge, not as something so big, so massive, so impossible that you can't overcome it, but as an opportunity to do what you've already done before. And that's to win and win again. Now, when you do that, that inner confidence within you becomes contagious to those on your team. And as they see you move forward, even if you move forward afraid to overtake and overcome whatever challenge it is that's before you, they too, like the Israeli army, are ultimately going to join in the effort. Now, David had a son, Solomon, who succeeded his father, but one of the statements David's son Solomon said, two are better than one, for they have a good reward for their labor. And when you as a leader exude confidence and you move forward when you see a challenge and you see that challenge as an opportunity to overcome, those that are following you are going to rally to your side, and two become better than one, because one is too small a number to achieve greatness. Now, several years ago, I had the opportunity to compete in a martial arts tournament in Kansas. As I entered the finals, I faced an opponent that the locals in this part of Kansas called Big Bird. Well, I didn't know why until I faced him in the ring. I'm 5'9.5". This guy, Big Bird, was about 6'5", 6'6". He was a giant of a fighter, and he wore these massive yellow hand pads, foot pads, and headgear. That's the name Big Bird. And he had fought in the secondary bracket, and he and I were meeting in the finals. Now, I was excited and fearful at the same moment because this guy was one of the biggest fighters I had ever fought up until that point in my fighting career as a martial artist. For me, it was truly a David and Goliath moment. Now, as the fight began, the first thing Big Bird did was he kicked me in the face so hard, I literally thought he had broken my nose. Now, at this point, I knew I was in a battle because not only was he big, he was strong and he was fast. But I also knew that I had beaten other opponents that were taller than me before. So I was confident that this time would be no different. We began to circle each other warily, each of us looking for an opportunity and looking for an opening in the other fighter's defenses. I knew that if I could get on the inside, I could take away his reach advantage, and I could then use the advantage of my speed and my quickness to have an opportunity to gain a strategic advantage. So punching, kicking, parrying, blocking, moving, all the things that I had learned to do in my years of training, back fist, reverse punch, side kick. Every time I threw something, I followed with something else. But as time ticked down, I was behind in the score. I had to come from behind to win. Now, Big Bird was a very talented competitor, but that day I was the better man. That day I won the finals and I took the trophy home and I went on to the next tournament. And by the end of that year, I was named the top fighter in my division. I had truly experienced a David and Goliath moment. And like David, I'd come out on top. I had conquered my giant. In fact, that year, I conquered several of them. And with each victory, with each win, my confidence as a fighter and as a martial artist grew. Now, my ability and my confidence not only grew in the ring, but that confidence oozed over into my business and into my personal life. And all of the many things I was doing, that confidence in the ring made me more confident as the black belt leader in life I was learning to become. Now, in my mind, it was very simple. If I could be successful in the ring, taking down the giants that I faced there, why for me would it be any different in the business world or in life? So let me challenge you to think about this. If you don't believe you can, you can't. And you won't. It's a simple fact of life. In fact, James Allen, in one of his immortal classics, As a Man Thinketh, he says, as you think, you become. And as you continue to think, you remain. So give some thought to this. Your belief in yourself, your talent, your ability, your skills are going to set the mindset that is either going to allow you to accept nothing but victory or be willing to accept defeat, depending on what you believe. It's in that moment, in your thinking, that the battle is truly won or lost. Because as you think, you become. And as you continue to think, you remain. So your belief in you, your belief in your team, your belief in your talent and skill and theirs is going to give your team the belief in themselves that if you believe in them, they can believe in themselves too. And when you do that, they can and they will come along your side and help you accomplish that seemingly impossible task that's before you all, even if those on your team are initially questioning their own ability. Now, when you believe that you can, and you think those thoughts and take the corresponding action, let me tell you the good news. When you believe you can, the battle is already won. Now you're simply acting out what you believe to be true to achieve the outcome you've already established in your thinking as the end result in your mind. And when you believe that you can, and you will. Now, throughout life, you and I are going to face Goliaths, and we're going to face Goliaths more than once. You will never achieve your highest aspirations, your greatest goals, and see your big, hairy, audacious dreams come to their physical representation in the earth without slaying a few giants along the way. That's just the fact of life. One of my mentors is Dr. John Maxwell, and he says everything worthwhile is uphill. It's going to be a struggle in life to achieve the success and significance that you want to achieve. Now, think about this. Your personal and professional growth journey as a leader is at time going to be marred. It's going to be hampered. It's going to be imposed upon by these giants who are going to rise up and stand in front of you and cry out, "You can go no farther." Now, it's in those moments that you've got to reach within yourself and discover who you truly are. As you have discovered and you've been developing, it is now time to deploy your black belt leader within and to live life with black belt excellence, having the confidence that once again, you are going to overcome. Now, it's been said that fear is nothing more than false evidence appearing real. So when you have confidence in yourself as a leader, as someone who's already overcome so much and are still capable of overcoming so much more, this belief in yourself is going to give you the courage to step forward and say to this giant, you say, "I will proceed no further." I'm here to tell you this: as I conquered the giants who came before me, this time will be no different. You will lose, I will win, I will succeed. So let me leave you with this thought. Don't let the giants that are before you intimidate you any longer. Stand up to your giant. Declare your intention to defeat the Goliath before you. Share the wins of how you have overcome the giants in your past, and that this time it will be no different. You will succeed. Slay your Goliath and keep pressing forward. Your future success awaits the better version of yourself you're going to become with every win and with every giant that you defeat. I'm John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me for this Black Belt Leadership Master Your Life podcast. Go live your life with Black Belt excellence, conquer your Goliath, and have a great day.